When we set out to democratize access to space, we started with launch. We wanted to make it easy for small satellites to get to orbit faster and more frequently, and to do it on their terms. So we built a rocket unlike any other.
Hi everyone, welcome to Value. So today we're going to look at Rocket Lab. This is a company that is basically one of the leaders when it comes to sending satellites into space. The only one that I can think of that really tops this is SpaceX, which says a lot about this company. And also feel free to like and subscribe, it is really appreciated and shows a lot of support, and also just helps the video as well because YouTube uses an algorithm that is based on likes to really give your videos exposure. And yeah, let's jump into this. So firstly, Rocket Lab is coming onto the market at a 4.1 billion enterprise valuation, but we also have to count the cash that's being injected into this company, and about $745 million is being injected into this company, which gives it about a around about that $4.8 billion mark. And usually when a SPAC merges, it starts at a base of $10. And if you're buying at $14 today, you're basically paying a 41% increase on that current valuation, which brings it up to $6.67 billion, if my calculation was right. So your biggest question today is, do you want to buy this today, and is it worth $6.7 billion? I personally think it is, but we'll go through this presentation and then you can decide for yourself. Alright, so just to look at the website, I think it's just really cool that when you look at the website and you see this button called Book My Launch, and it's just amazing to be able to click on something like this, and then be able to just ask them about regarding sending a satellite into space. Like, what a day and age we live in where we can actually make this possible. It used to just be possible with governments, now it's possible with private companies, which is quite amazing. And as the slide puts, in the history of spaceflight, only 2 private companies have delivered regular and reliable access to space, and one of them is SpaceX, and the other is Rocket Lab. So you've got basically 2 companies in the forefront of this, SpaceX doing the much larger satellites and Rocket Lab doing the smaller satellites, and they're both just very good at what they do, and they're leading this field. And as you can see, there's also a very large valuation difference. So SpaceX is valued at $74 billion in their last funding round, and Rocket Lab was valued at $4.1 billion. If you look at SpaceX, their first commercial launch was 2009, and for Rocket Lab it was 2018, so also a big gap in the years, but they're making really good ground. They've done 16 successful launches and with payloads, and SpaceX has done 106. So the fact that these guys started commercially doing this in 2018 when they first did the commercial launch. Let's look at the revenues. So the revenues this year, they're expecting $69 million, and that's up from $35 million that they expected last year. And next year they expect to do $176 million. So as it's put with space companies, since what they do is so rare, basically they get 100x on their revenue valuation. On the present value, present revenue predictions, they would be looking at about 6.9 billion value, and I think it's very fair, especially in this climate where valuations are fairly high. And for space, I think they probably get one of the highest, because what they do in the future is just going to be so amazing and hard to replicate as well. So yeah, I think this year they're probably right now about 6.9 billion valuation, getting closer to the end of the year. I think the valuation will start to rise up for next year's revenue, which will be looking at about 17.6 billion. So you can kind of see the valuation grows exponentially as the revenues also grow, and yeah, it'll be amazing gain, and also you get to invest in a really exciting company, which is all really awesome as well. Of course, that's only if they achieve these revenues and they continue to have a high trajectory in terms of their potential. Yeah, and as you can see, like they are looking at going over that $1 billion mark in 2026 and in $1.5 billion by 2027, which is also like very amazing to have such a company. And also like the revenues just grow really, really quickly, and the company will have a massive valuation in the future. Like this is a company that will likely be worth 100 billion at least in the next 10 years, if they can continue what they do, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't continue on the current trajectory. These guys have done some of the hardest parts regarding sending rockets into space, and actually making them reusable as well. And I think there's very few things that this company couldn't do in this sense, because I think they've done the hardest part, and they've sent 97 satellites into space. So the fact that they've sent satellites into space, close to 100 of them, is already proving that this company just has to continue what they're doing, and also build more launch pads, continue to launch more satellites into space, and the recipe continues to replicate. Also, of course, they want to also do much larger rockets as well, and once they're successful with that, that will also continue to grow the company as well. And as I go with this presentation, you'll see how this company is developing and why it's going to be one of the leading companies around the world when it comes to space, and why there's good potential in investing in it today. At least that's what my opinion is anyway. So they've done 18 space launches, 97 satellites into orbit. They've got 3 launch pads built. Currently they just mainly focus on the one in New Zealand, but they're also focused on launching in the US as well, and that's going to increase the capacity which they can operate in. They're the second most frequently launched US rocket. They've got the second 2 mission control centers, 7 successful missions for USG customers, 1 strategic acquisition, 2 factories built, 1 of our own satellites on orbit, 1 recovered rocket, and then 3 interplanetary missions scheduled. So these guys want to head to the moon, Mars, and Venus. So the potential and ambition of this company is definitely there. So here, I think this graph, this chart also summarizes it in a really good way. So in terms of the most frequently launched rockets in the US, they are second behind SpaceX. In terms of globally, the only ones that are ahead of it is China, Russia, and SpaceX. Like globally, Rocket Lab is the 4th most the most launches of rockets in the world. So that kind of tells you how amazing this company is in terms of what they do. Like there's very few companies, like not even like a lot of countries can match it. Like only China and Russia match this company, and then next is SpaceX. So you can see how world leading this company is. And not to mention the technology is also amazing. Like 3D printing companies get large valuations, and this company is also part 3D printing. Like they were the first to 3D print their rocket engines. They continue to do that as well. They're the first with electric pump fed rocket engine, first fully carbon composite launch vehicle, first only private orbital launch site, first rocket that converts to a satellite on orbit. So that's also really cool. You send a rocket into space and it converts to a satellite. Also unique kick stage enabling in space transportation, reusable small launch vehicle, first private interplanetary mission. So you can see this company isn't just following off SpaceX, it is also doing its own stuff, and it's doing a lot of firsts, which is amazing what they do as well. And I think that the tech and the 3D printing itself, if they decide to do something else with that as well, it offers a lot of potential. And I think the company that can do that in space as well, if they can launch into space and also 3D print in space, that also creates a big opportunity as well. But I think currently they are focused on the satellites and are doing a very good job. So in terms of their target addressable market, they're looking at currently a $350 billion market, and that can grow to 1.4 trillion by 2020. So it kind of lets you know that, hey, these guys have a lot of room to run, particularly they're one of the leaders in this field, and as this addressable market continues to grow, it's just going to mean this company is going to just have more potential ahead of it. So currently, they do have a rocket called Electron, and then they're going to launch another one called Neutron in 2024, and that's going to help them with a combined addressable market of 10 billion. And then they've got Photon, which is their satellite that converts to their rocket that converts to a satellite, and that's a $20 billion addressable market. And then the biggest one is space applications. This is literally the right time and the right company, basically. In the next 10 years, this company is going to be worth a lot. It's one of the companies with the highest barriers to get into. Like, this is one of the fields that not everyone's going to be able to get into, because there's so much, like, even if you had the capital, you need to put the money into the technology, and there's so much risk involved when you send things into space. And this company, once you've found the recipe, literally it's just a rinse and repeat, and continue to do it with much bigger rockets. As mentioned, basically they have their launch pad in New Zealand. So basically you've got the head company, which is headquartered in the US. So HQ is in the US, but they have a subsidiary which is responsible of launching the rockets, and that is based in New Zealand. So technically the founder is from New Zealand, but they needed financial backing, and basically they got that from the US, so hence why they are headquarters in the US. But it's very much a New Zealand company that is integrated in the US, and in the longer term it will integrate more into the US. Like, they've got a launch the launch complex 2, which is being built in the US as well. And in the future they're looking at sending their much larger rockets from the US as well. So as you can see with this part here, you've got SpaceX with their Falcon 9, which is about 63 meters base, and that's a very, very large rocket, whereas the current rockets that Space Rocket Lab launches right now is about 18 meters. And in the one that I've got coming up in the next few years will be Neutron, which is about a 40-meter rocket. So it will be basically more than doubling the size of the current rocket, but it still won't be as large as what SpaceX has. But it allows them to address 98% of the market through to 2029. So there's basically, they will compete for a lot of the contracts. And the only company that I can really think about that really provides a lot of competition will be SpaceX. Like, there will be other competition for other companies, but as I've looked at before, in the Astra kind of addressable market, that in the future there's just going to be so many satellites being launched into space that literally there's not going to be that much competition, because there's going to be so much demand that I don't think these companies are going to be able to keep up anyway. So it's really cool to be able to find a company like this and get the early stages as well. Like, of course the valuation might seem quite high at over $6 billion, but in the scheme of things it's actually really, really low. And in the next 10 years I can see this company going over $100 billion. But even in the near term, like, I can see this company going to 15 to 20 billion in the next 12 to 24 months, which offers a great opportunity for investors who love this area and also have the patience and the time frame to just hold one of these really, really beautiful companies. And also, as I mentioned, they are looking to go to the moon this year. So how cool is that? They're looking to launch in 2021 to the moon. 2023 will be Venus. 2024 will be Mars. So, we hear about Elon Musk talking about Mars a lot, and we kind of think it's kind of like this hyped up dream. But the fact that the Rocket Lab also has these targets, Like it is very, very realizable in the next 5 years that these companies are going to explore the outer, solar system, in terms of like beyond Earth anyway. Like they're going to look at Mars, they're going to look at Venus. And if Rocket Lab is looking at this, SpaceX definitely will have this sort of time frame as well. So it's amazing that in the next 5 years we could have these private companies going into these areas. It used to be only governments could really do this. Now we've got companies that are doing it themselves, and innovation is just so much better when it comes down to private companies. So if you like this company, you buy a Vector Acquisition Corp, and it'll be at $6.67 billion in terms of valuation. If you've got any questions, comments, feel free to just post them below. And if you haven't liked or subscribed by now, definitely worth your time, because it gives me the motivation to produce more content like this and find more opportunities for you. And until then, good luck investing, everyone.